Plus tutorial along with 9 selections. Now, last week we did this, gave you 9 selections, some FCS, some NFL, mostly FBS, and went 8-1 on them. So hopefully we'll have the same type of success this week. We'll keep a running track record of how the selections do, but the main thing is Phil Steele Plus is what I use for handicapping. It makes me an instant college football expert. I have poured hundreds of thousands of dollars into this website over the years, and you can get the benefit of it for just $39. I'll have more on that in a minute, but let's talk about how to use the website. Now, over here, you see the front of philsteele.com. What you're going to do is there's FBS info, and that's where we're going to start right now. I'm going to go click on FBS info, team pages, and here we are with our team pages. They're all in conference order for you. If you don't know the conferences, you can come down here to the FBS team pages. They're in alphabetical order for you. So either way, so I'm pretty comfortable with the conferences in the FBS, believe it or not, and we'll start there. I like to do the individual game grades, which I believe went 3-0 last week, and we're going to start off with a big game, Michigan against Wisconsin. Now, your knee-jerk reaction when you first see this game is to take Wisconsin plus the points over Michigan. Let's face it, they're a great away dog. They're a top 10 team, and they're getting over a touchdown. But let's take a look at the individual game grades here. Michigan's playing at a level of 109.0. Meanwhile, Wisconsin is playing at a level of 97.4. Tuck in that 4-point home edge for Wisconsin, or for Michigan, I should say, and that's got Michigan winning this thing by double digits. And let's take a little bit peek under the covers here. Now, one great thing about Phil Steele Plus is it gives you the halftimes of every game. I want you to notice the halftime of the Michigan-Maryland game. Michigan allowed 42 yards. Let's notice the halftime of the Michigan-Nebraska game. Michigan's defense allowed 17 yards. They have a great defense. In fact, this is extremely valuable here. It gives you the defensive foe versus opponent. In other words, they held Maryland to 180 yards below their season average. So you can tell at a glance that when Maryland's not playing Michigan, the 220 plus 180, they're averaging 400 yards per game. Michigan held them to 220, which is 180 below their season average. They held Nebraska to 375 below their season average. That means the Huskers, when they're not playing Michigan, average 507 yards per game. When they played Michigan, they got 132. That's 215 yards below the season average for Michigan's defense this year, the nation's best. So you have the nation's best defense and offense. It's getting it going. Last week, they had 151 yards above Maryland's defensive average on the year. Shea Patterson has got a 10-3 ratio. Higdon running the football. And you can see the progression of the players here when you click on individual stats. You see Shea Patterson, start of the year, 0-1 ratio against Michigan. Since then, 3-0, 3-1, 1-0, 3-1. That is 4-1, 7-2, 10-2 ratio the last 5 games ever since that Michigan game when they ran the spread. Higdon, look at this. Higdon had 0 yards against SMU, 136, 115, and 103 the last 3 games. He's getting it going. Zach Gentry has stepped up, 112 yards receiving here. This is a Michigan offense that's getting better by the week. All this stuff is at your fingertips on every team. And what I like to do is I set the teams side by side just like this. Now, Michigan's averaging 5.1 yards per carry, but that's a great Wisconsin defense. It always is. Wisconsin's defense is always in the top 10 each and every year. Not this year. Wisconsin's allowing 4.4 yards per carry. Is that weaker than normal? Well, you know, Phil Steele Plus, you look at these team pages, takes you all the way down. You can got team pages all the way back. And that's why I said it's cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars this. Team pages all the way back to 2009, color-coded green and red. Green is good. Look at this run defense here. Look at the run defense here. Look at all these green run defense numbers for Wisconsin. And Wisconsin, the last 3 years alone in run defense, has allowed 98 yards per game, 3.2. The previous year to that, 99 yards per game, 3.3. Previous year to that, 95 yards per game, 3.1. That's a hell of a run defense. This year, not so much. 130 yards per game, 4.4. That borders into a little slightly above average, as does this. They're holding opponents to 56 yards below their season average. Good. But it's only number 44 in the country. This is not a Wisconsin top 10 defense. And while Wisconsin runs the ball like this and has success, you wonder if Alex Hornibrook, and here you can look at his stats from last year, 15 interceptions last year. He only has 2 this year because they're running the ball like this. What happens when they run into Michigan's run defense, which has given up 2.6 yards per carry? If they can't run the ball, does Hornibrook's interception total go up? I wonder about that. And then we'll take a look at the last time they traveled here. Now, first of all, Michigan's playing with legitimate revenge. Last year, they went into Wisconsin and lost 24-10. But 2 years ago here at home, Michigan had a 349 to 159 yard edge, 21-8 first down edge. And if a Michigan defensive back didn't intercept the ball at midfield when Wisconsin had a fourth and 10, I think it was, from their own 8, Michigan would have had the ball in the 8, punched it in, and probably won that game 21-17. It's the best Michigan team that Harbaugh's fielded. I like, and the average game grades like Michigan by double digits over Wisconsin. Next matchup is a Friday night game, so we'll see how that one works out. We got Tulsa playing South Florida. South Florida's the visitor, so I'll put them on the left. Tulsa's on the home team, so I'll put them on the right. Let's break it down. Now, the average game grades, Tulsa is coming off a game against Houston. And here's another thing. I showed you the halftimes over here, which are invaluable, but also these box scores. When you click on the box score, it takes you to the game. Here you can see that in the fourth quarter, Tulsa led Houston 26-17. Tulsa scored 3 times in a matter of like 90 seconds, and all of a sudden it turned into a 41-26 blowout. I'll put blowout in quote marks, but it really was a game Tulsa could easily have won. And then you look at this Temple game here. Tulsa had a 32-16 first down edge in that game, but came up 14 points short, mostly due to -3 in turnovers. So this is a Tulsa team that even played Texas tough. Look at this Texas game, 28-21, and Tulsa did get a touchdown with 4:53 left to pull within 7, but it was a 21-14 game in the fourth quarter before Texas drove and got this touchdown. So they played Texas tough, and Texas, this just in, pretty good team. Now we look at South Florida. South Florida's a little on the misleading side. Look at this East Carolina game, a 20-13 win, but the first downs 24-9 in favor of East Carolina, 412-296 in favor of East Carolina. The Pirates probably should have won that game. In the Illinois game, which they won here by 6, let's click on the box score. Once again, it's all at your fingertips for every game. And we see that Illinois actually led this thing 19-7 in the fourth quarter. Here's a complete write-up for the game. You could find out how the game was played. Here's your stats. Here's your scoring drives. Here's your player stats down here. You can get the player stats there. You can get the player stats here. This is all at your fingertips for every single team. Jordan Concrete did run for 302 yards against UMass in the last game. It's a little bit of a concern. But when you take a look at these two teams, Tulsa is a sizable underdog tonight at home, and the average game grades have Tulsa playing at an 84.2 level and South Florida at an 86.3 level. Factor in even just a 3-point home edge, and that says Tulsa wins the game outright tonight and should be favored, and yet Tulsa is a touchdown plus dog here. So the average game grade says take Tulsa plus the points over South Florida. And the final one we'll look at here is an interesting one from the MAC, and it's Eastern Michigan against Toledo. Now, the scary part here, and the good thing is, and these will be updated, by the way, over here, when you see these 2018 schedule and you see them look like this, that means that the series history is updated. Those will be updated probably within the next week. But I'll tip into last year's series history because it's available, and you can go all the way back here and keep getting the series histories. But let's take a look at the Toledo Eastern Michigan series history, and yes, Toledo has dominated. Look at all these wins for Toledo in a row. That's up to 16. What happened in 17? And the final score there was Toledo 20-15. So you could tell series history would point to Toledo here in the fact that Toledo, if we go to the Eastern Michigan thing here, has won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 in a row in the series. And here's against the spread. Now, if it's color-coded in green, then it's a spread cover. If it's color-coded in red, it is not a spread cover. So that is 8-2, and I'm not sure who covered last year. But let's go now to this year's game, because it's all about this year. It's not necessarily about the past, but it's good to be able to look up the past on things in this tutorial. Now we'll take a look at Eastern Michigan. Eastern Michigan's off 4 straight losses, but let's look a little closer. They played Buffalo within 7, San Diego State within 3, Northern Illinois within 3, Western Michigan within 3, and in fact had the yardage edge in a couple of those games. On the season, they're only minus 16 yards per game. Toledo's 3-2. They're minus 16 yards per game so far. Toledo on the road, minus 179 yards per game, but they've only had one road game. That was at Fresno State. But as you can tell, Eastern's playing pretty well. Now let's take a look at the average game grade. Eastern Michigan's playing to an average game grade of 84.9, and the average game grade takes into account not only the points, but the yards, and then who you played. As you can see here, Eastern Michigan had a 76-yard edge against Monmouth, and yet was outgained by 60 yards against Purdue. Yet, they played to a 92 level against Purdue and only a 77 level against Monmouth. Why is that? Despite winning that one 51-17, because of the competition, because of the fact they were at home. Meanwhile, going into Purdue and coming out with the wins going to get you that big 92 game grade. They also played to a 94.7 game grade against San Diego State. Their average on the year is 84.9, number 69 in the country. Toledo got off to a great start. VMI, they blanked. They're at a 98.2 game grade, but since then, just 77, 81, 70, and 73. And interestingly, Gudani, their quarterback, you can tell right here when you click over here, and this is invaluable, updated each week. You can see he got injured in the second quarter against Fresno, and Eli Peters came in, hit 10 of 21, 17 of 35 here. He does have a 5-1 ratio, so you got to like that. But the Gudani is still the team's leading rusher. And how many yards rushing has Eli Peters got? Let's go take a look at there. Minus 33 and 2. He's got minus 31 yards rushing for Eli Peters. He's not the running threat Gudani is. He has a transfer, I believe, he's from Illinois. But he's only hitting 49%. Gudani hit 63%. I believe that it's going to be Peters again here. And Toledo is actually a slight road favorite. The average game grade says that not so fast. You give them a 3-point home edge. They play on a gray surface. You see the gray here? That's the interesting thing about the stadium view. Not an overall intimidating environment, but that's pretty neat that they play on a gray surface. But 86.9 plus 3 is 89.9. That means Eastern Michigan should win this game by 9.5. And they're a slight home underdog, so you got to like that. So your 3 average game grade plays with complete reasoning and showing you how to use the system. And by the way, you want to go back to 2017 and see individual player stats on Eastern Michigan. You can see how each player did all season long. Great for fantasy football as well. And then, once again, you could click on Eastern Michigan against Miami in 2016, and you could see all their games prior to that, but use the latest one for the most recent for these series histories. Now let's move on to a game I want to look at, sort of an under-the-radar game. It's Purdue against Illinois. Illinois is a 10.5-point dog at home. It's just a crappy Illinois team, right? But there's something I want to show you about Illinois, which sort of just jumped out to me all season when I put these teams side by side, and whenever I've been putting Illinois side by side with anybody. You've got Reggie Corbin, 464 yards, 7.9 yards per carry. Mike Epstein, 387 yards, 6.8 yards per carry, and they just got back A.J. Bush, their quarterback. If you look here, Bush missed which game did Bush miss? He missed Penn State and he missed USF. He got injured against Western Illinois, so he's only played one game, 2.5 games. In 2.5 games, A.J. Bush has rushed for 258 yards, 5.9. All this information's at your fingertips, guys. Look at that run game. Look at this run game here. 261 yards per game, 5.6. Doesn't the green jump out at you on a weekly basis here? Look at Purdue's rush D. They gave up 259 rush to Nebraska, 6.6. 233 rush to Missouri, 5.1. I think Illinois should be able to run the football on Purdue. Average game grades doesn't quite see this one in the factor, but I want to go one more thing. Let's go back to these box scores. Look at that USF game. Illinois led USF 19-7 in the fourth quarter. They led 19-17. USF got a touchdown with 2:29 left. That's a good game for Illinois. Then the Penn State game, as pointed, I don't know if I pointed out or not, but let's look at Penn State. Illinois led Penn State, and this was a remarkable game, 24-21 in the third quarter. Mid-third quarter, it's 24-21 Illinois. Then Penn State got a bunch of big plays, even tacked on a touchdown with 1:56 left. Looks like a blowout, but I like the way Illinois played with Penn State for 2.5 quarters until a bunch of big plays happened and they ended up losing it. Once again, last week, a nice game with 330 yards rush, 7.7 yards carry against Rutgers. I think that this is an under-the-radar Illinois team. Why are they under the radar? Look at all this red. 2 wins this year, 3 wins this year. They're an under-the-radar team. Nobody's thinking highly of Illinois, but I'll take a team that can run the football like this, especially as a double-digit underdog at home. So my under-the-radar game is Illinois at home against Purdue. Now let's take a look at another one, and this one has more to do with series as well as one of these guys being a great underdog. And then we're going to look at Kansas State against Oklahoma State this week. Now, Oklahoma State coming off a couple of tough losses in recent weeks, games where you thought they'd roll, and they are actually a pretty decent-sized road favorite here in this game. They are a 7-point road favorite against Kansas State. So let's take a look, line these teams up side by side. Oklahoma State beat Missouri State handily. That was nice. They beat South Alabama handily. They got a couple of blocked punts. And once again, you go to your box score over here. You could see this says 86-yard. Wait, that's a Ball State, Indiana game. My guy's got to get the Boise State, Oklahoma State correct box score up there. It'll be up there by the time you see this. Let's go to the Boise State side and see if we got that box score up there correctly. Boise State, come down here to the Oklahoma State game. There we go. And here we see a 13-yard return of a blocked punt for a touchdown. I believe there's 2 of them in this game. I don't see the other one. The other one must have set up a touchdown, probably right here. You see how they got a 7-yard drive in 3 plays? That was probably after the other block punt. So 2 block punts, basically 2 touchdowns. Yards even. First downs 23-19 Boise. Oklahoma State had 2 late touchdowns in the fourth quarter. You see the drives. You see the plays. It's all laid out for you. You get the recap of the game. It's all at your fingertips on each game. So anyway, they beat Oklahoma State at home. That was definitely their best game of the season so far. Let me get off the Boise State page. Go back to the Oklahoma State page. And so you can see that. Look at the power ratings they were playing at the start of the year. Now let's take a look at the power ratings they're playing at now. Texas Tech, they played to a 72 level. Kansas, they did go to a 104.8. And Iowa State, an 86.8. Kansas State, meanwhile, started out the season slow. South Dakota, they barely win. Get pummeled by Mississippi State, a very physical team. Oklahoma State's not that physical of a team. They're more of a fast team. UTSA, they beat 41-17, and they went at West Virginia and got beat. But then Bill Snyder said prior to Texas they started practicing well. And look at this. They only lose to Texas by 5. The Baylor game was a back-and-forth game. Let's click on the box score there. We see that K-State 20-20. K-State led 27-20. There's 27-27. They trailed by 7. Tie game. Baylor gets a field goal with 8 seconds left to beat them. K-State actually played pretty well in this game. So let's look here now. They are 2-4. Look at the rest of their schedule. They've got at Oklahoma, at TCU. Those are probably 2 losses coming up. These games are all winnable at the end of the season. If they win this one, they can get to a bowl game. This is one of those circle the wagon games for K-State. They almost have to win this game. With these 2 teams coming up on the road, they can find themselves 2-7 and eliminated from a bowl. Skylar Thompson took over at QB last week, once again showing you how to use the individual player stats. Alex Delton was struggling. Skylar Thompson came in, did that, and last week looked pretty good. And Alex Barnes, look at this. He hadn't had a 100-yard game for a while, ran for 250 yards against Baylor last week. All this stuff available, every single team. Line them up side by side. You become an instant expert. I don't believe our start charts are updated yet. Oh, look at that. K-State's start charts updated for this year. You can see Thompson started the first 4 games. Delton started. And then when it gets updated this week, you'll see Thompson started. You could see offensive line. Looks like it remained intact, but Beecham slid over here, Mitchell slid over there, but still the same 5 offensive linemen have started all the games for him, which is good. You like to have that continuity on the offensive line, especially when they renewed all 5 starters from last year. You want to look at the series history here, though, is one of the reasons I brought this one up. And look, they're already updated, so let's take a look. K-State, look at the spreads over here. Yeah, they've been losing. Oklahoma State's been a dynamic team, top 10 team most of the years. But look at, and you could see the rankings. See all the rankings for Oklahoma State over here? They're not ranked this year, by the way. But K-State, 1, 2, 3, 3-1, 4-1, 5-1, 5-2, 6-2, 7-2, 8-2, 9-2, 10-2, 10-3, 11-3 against the spread in the series right here. Doing extremely well. Against the spread. They are a touchdown underdog. I think in a circle the wagons game, they've got a shot here. And keep in mind, Oklahoma State lost to Texas Tech and Iowa State, both at home. and now they're playing Kansas State on the road. I put Kansas State in the Texas Tech and Iowa State classes. I think K-State's got a chance here. So my series history, the one we're looking at, also strength of schedule. K-State's played Mississippi State, West Virginia, Texas. Those three teams are all better than anybody Oklahoma State has played this year. They have not even played. Boise State was ranked at the time, not ranked anymore. West Virginia's undefeated. Texas has 1 loss. Mississippi State has 2 losses. All three of these teams are ranked. K-State's played the tougher schedule as well. Just thought I'd throw that in. So that'll do it for our FBS version, but I got some great plays, including 2 in the NFL. And the NFL won last week with Tennessee over Buffalo. But let's start with your FCS games this week. Now, if you're an FCS fan, first of all, get my FCS magazine. Just go to the homepage here. Nobody puts out an FCS magazine. We did this year. It's available. You just click on College Football Preview, and you can sign up. That's Phil Steele Plus. Let me get the FCS magazine. Let me go to the homepage. Homepage. All right, let me click back. Homepage. I'm on the homepage. All right, I'm on the homepage. I'm going to go to the store. I'm at the store. Now at the store, we're going to go to the College FCS magazine. I'm at the store. All right, let me go back to the home page here. Home page. All right, let's go down a little bit.
In the middle, right there. In the middle of your page. College FCS.
College FCS. Let me hold on one sec, guys. When I clicked on that, Phil Steele Plus came up, Todd. There's the FCS magazine. And then it tells me I have to log in. Click on a picture of the magazine. I'm trying to get to my purchase of this magazine, which I'm having some troubles doing it right now. It'll get fixed, guys. What I say is this. Go to the homepage, click on the FCS. By the time you do that, you'll be able to click on this and actually purchase the magazine for $9.99. So as much as I've been struggling here, Todd will make sure that gets fixed for you, and it'll be a dream. You'll zip right into it and zip right out of it. But let's go to FCS pages. And it's just $9.99. By the way, it's a full page on every single team, and it's all yours. And it's a complete write-up on every team, individual stats from last year or more. Sorry about the delay there. And it's good that we're working the bugs out before you get to the site and are actually working on it. Well, you're at the site right now. All right, so the FCS team pages, you can tell we also have them in alphabetical order, which really helps me out. And the first game we're going to look at here is South Carolina State, and they are playing Bethune-Cookman. Now, in this game, South Carolina State's an 8-point home underdog, and you can see why. Look at all that red. They're 1-4 this year, for crying out loud. They stink. They're a bad team. Bethune-Cookman comes in 3-3. You understand why Bethune-Cookman's an 8-point road favorite. Let's delve a little bit closer here. The losses for South Carolina State were to Georgia Southern, a very good Sun Belt team, at UCF. And by the way, the UCF game, they only lost 38-0. Norfolk State, let's see if Norfolk State's any good this year. You just go click on Norfolk State and see how good they are. Norfolk State, 3-2. Lost to James Madison. That's a good loss there. So that's a decent team. And the other team that South Carolina State has lost to this year, go back to South Carolina State, is North Carolina A&T. Now, we know North Carolina A&T is a good team. Let's see how they've been doing this year. North Carolina A&T. They beat Jacksonville State. They beat East Carolina. They crushed Gardner-Webb. They beat San Diego State by 15, South Carolina State by 15, and Delaware State by 18. So that's a good team as well. So I understand their losses. They've all been to pretty good teams. They're at home for this. And last week they beat Morgan State. Now, another thing, you can look up series history. We've got series history on FCS games as well, all the way back here. And the home team in this series has done extremely well. Last year, South Carolina State went into Bethune-Cookman, lost by 3. Home against Bethune-Cookman, they won 28-7. At Bethune-Cookman, they lost by 3. Home to Bethune-Cookman, they won by 6. At Bethune-Cookman, they lost by 11. Home team has won 5 in a row. They're at home. They're an 8-point dog. Now let's look at the invincible Bethune-Cookman here. They beat Virginia Lynchburg. I didn't even know they had a football team, 79-16. They beat Savannah State. Now, Savannah State, if you don't follow FCS, one of the worst FCS teams out there. They get blown out by everybody every week. They beat them 35-20. And they beat Mississippi Valley State. Let's go take a look at Mississippi Valley State under our FCS team pages here. Mississippi Valley State, click on that. And Mississippi Valley State has lost to North Dakota by 35, Jacksonville State by 71, Alcorn State by 36, and Bethune-Cookman by 14. So add it all up, you can look at, for this team, Bethune-Cookman, 3 wins, but came against nobody. Now they're an 8-point road favorite. The home team does well. My computer says South Carolina State wins this 25-19. The computer was right on both the games I threw at you last week. I'm going to take South Carolina State +8. The other one we're looking at, and once again, once you get this thing in your hands, this Phil Steele Plus, you could do this with every game, FCS, FBS, break it down. You'll become an instant expert on every team. Sanford and VMI. Sanford is a 21.5-point favorite. Let's go take a look at the Sanford page. Now, your first question is, how can you take a team that's 2-4 and lay 21.5 points? I'll show you. Now, first of all, my computer says Sanford wins this thing 60-18. So what's my computer seeing? Well, it's seeing that Sanford beats Shorter, big deal. Outplayed Florida State. I mean, they had a yardage edge on Florida State. Probably should have beaten the Seminoles. They lost to Mercer by 6. Mercer, a pretty good team. They lost to Chattanooga by 7. Pretty good team. Kennesaw State's a ranked team. They lost to them by 14 on the road. Third road game in 4 weeks. And the Mercer game was probably a flat spot after giving an all-out effort against Florida State. And then last week, they blasted Western Carolina. So I think this is a very underrated Sanford team. Chris Hatcher does a great job there. Look what they did last year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. By the fact they played 12 games, you know they made the playoffs, and they lost to Kennesaw State in the playoffs last year. Now, how good is VMI? And why are we laying 21.5 points to them? Uh-oh, look at the red. They're only 219 yards offense last year and winless. They did not win a game. In fact, their average lost by 29 points per game. This year, winless. Look at that rushing game. 61, 64, 18, 56, 55. They can't run the ball. Pure passing team. And because of that, look at the amount of sacks they give up. 4, 3, 8, 6, and 2. Defensively, well, they can't stop the run. They give up 280 yards per game, 6.1 yards per carry. And they struggle against the pass as well. And that's only when teams have to even pass. Look, they threw the ball 17 times because they ran the ball for 450. Meanwhile, we take a look at Sanford's offense. Pretty doggone good. 498 yards per game, 69% completions, 4.2 yards per carry. Sanford's laying 21.5. Yeah, I deserve that's 2-4 team. Computer says 60-18. We're taking Sanford minus the 20.5 over VMI. All right, let's go to the NFL now. And once again, you just come out here to the outside, click on the NFL team pages. And when you click on the team pages, you get the nice logos. It's a pretty looking neat page. First game we're going to look at here is Minnesota against Arizona. Now, Minnesota is a 10-point favorite. We know that double-digit favorites have not been doing well in the NFL. We've seen some big-time upsets. But let's take a look a little bit closer at this one and why I like the Vikings minus 10 in this. First of all, the Vikings played Buffalo 3 weeks ago. Buffalo came in a 17-point dog. It was one of the biggest upsets in the NFL recently, and Buffalo just flat out outplayed them. Look at the halftime. Buffalo had led 27-0 at the half with a 245 to 46-yard edge. Why? Minnesota was flat. Do you think that there's any chance that Mike Zimmer has his team flat for Arizona this week? My answer would be no. That was embarrassing. Minnesota's starting to play better. You could tell that by their average game grades, a 91.2 against Philadelphia last week. By the way, look at the yards at the half against Philly, 208 to 91. The defense got gashed by the Rams. A lot of defenses get gashed by the Rams. Zimmer's got a lot of pride. I think their defense will play well. And why? Let's take a look at this paltry Arizona offense. It's last in the NFL. 211 yards per game. Yeah, Jake Plummer's there. Yeah, they put up 28 points, but they only had 10 first downs, 220 yards last week. I love NFL.com. They have these books here, which are phenomenal. We see that Arizona scored on a 75-yard pass. That means 75 Arizona's yards came on one play. Here they got a short drive for a touchdown, 18-yard drive for a touchdown, and then you got the fumble return for a touchdown. It was not an offense scoring 28 points. The defense set it up. They have a tough time moving the ball. They're taking on the Vikings defense. Vikings will be prepared. I got to like the Vikings. -10 over Arizona. Seems obvious, but you've got Arizona off a win, so you never know. But, yeah, I like the Vikings -10. That's an official play here for the Phil Steele one. The other NFL team game we're going to look at is Chicago and Miami. And let's take a look at the Bears. And we take a look at Miami. Now, the last 2 weeks in my Inside the Press Box NFL hasn't been a great year for Inside the Press Box in the NFL. I'll come right out and admit it's got a losing record right now. The colleges are doing great. Colleges are 25-14-1 on the year, 16-4-1 the last 3 weeks, but the NFL has got a losing record on the year. But the one good thing is I've gone against Miami the last 2 weeks, and look at these red numbers here for Miami. They have been struggling. In fact, even when they were green numbers, beating Tennessee, beating the Jets, beating Oakland, look at this. They were outgained by 105 yards, outgained by 61. They're minus 94 yards per game on the year. Let's take a look at the Bears. They had they led Green Bay 17-0 at the half with a 160-71-yard edge. They beat Seattle at home. That Arizona game, once again, a lackluster game, and while they needed a comeback, they had a 21-13 first down edge, 316 to 221 yard edge in that game. And then Tampa Bay last week, 48-10. I love what their defense is doing. Number 4 in the NFL, holding opponents to 60 yards below their season average. We all know Khalil Mack joined the team, joined a great set of linebackers. That's an outstanding defense, 295 yards per game. Miami generates less than that, 288. Miami gives up 383 yards per game. Chicago gets 341. And we've seen Chicago's offense. See the red numbers at the start? Got a little better against Arizona. Looked great against Tampa Bay. Let's go take a look at the individual player stats here. Trubisky, 19 of 26 for 354. We see him going from 171 to 200 to 220 to 354. That's nice. We see a Trubisky ascending, Chicago's offense rolling. Now, the scary part, I remember 1985, the Bears went into Miami unbeaten. Miami and Dan Marino knocked them off in a huge game. Well, this Bears team's not unbeaten. They don't have the hype. And I don't think Ryan Tannehill is quite Dan Marino. Not with an 8-5 ratio this year. Add it all up, I'm going to take the Bears -3.5 as an Inside the Press Box play. Now, I told you could get Inside the Press Box for $39. This should be pretty easy. We're going to go to the homepage. We're going to go to the store right here. And when you go to the store, all you have to do is come over here to Phil Steele Plus. It's right here. You click on it. Let's show this one works. It does. I'm going to order now for $49. And when we go to the page, I'm going to view my cart. I probably ordered it once before. Yeah, let's take it back down to 1. Update my cart. It's going to come in $49. Then over here, I want you to type in the code word Red Hot. That's RED space HOT. RED space HOT. When you do that, you get $10 off this price. $39. You get all this all year, all the way through the Super Bowl. College, pro, FCS, everything through the Super Bowl. Every team. Yeah, they're all updated. New Mexico State, completely updated. All the years at your fingertips, all the history at your fingertips, individual stat leaders, everything color-coded green and red. Oh, look, New Mexico State's playing better offense recently. Defense poor against the run. You could see that at a glance. Individual leaders up top. Last 40 years results. This is beautiful. That's New Mexico State. Bad team to pick there, but let's pick one that's got the full 40. Any team here. Let's take a look at Boston College. Last 40 years results takes you all the way back to 1976. You want to know a game and a line. So 1976, 40 years. It's actually 41 years now. It's right here. It's all at your fingertips. Every single team. And then if you want the draft history, that's there too. That's every single player that's ever been drafted by Boston College. You got to love that. Here's the broken down into rounds of 7 since the last 14 years. Everything is at your fingertips on every team. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars putting this together. You get it for $39 and become an instant expert handicapper yourself. Phil Steele Plus, go to the store, get there, enter the code word Red Hot. That's Red Hot, and get it for just $39. I'll be back with you next week. 8-1 last week. I'll let you know what the record was this week when we're done.